peace is an inner knowing. It's kind of like happiness. It ebbs and flows. Like, I'm truly a happy person, but I don't always feel happy. It would not be normal or natural to just constantly feel happy, right? If you always see someone and they're just like, got a big cheesy smile on their face, you kind of wonder, like, what's really going on? Like, most of the time, the people that are always smiling, typically they got a lot of pain and darkness behind that smile because it's not natural. It's not normal. And so people think that if you're a happy person, then you're not allowed to have a bad day. You're not allowed to be upset, to get frustrated, to be short, to blow up. You are allowed. Happiness is that you always are able to go back to it. If you're not a happy person, you can never go back to it. An unhappy person is just always pissed off. They're always grouchy. They never really are happy. But if you're truly happy, it ebbs and flows. Because at the end, you really know what matters. Doing so much inner work and healing of my mindset and shattering limiting beliefs and all that, I now know that I always have that in my life because it's not there anymore to haunt me. It's not there anymore to hold me back. I don't live in fear. I don't have those insecurities. I also don't allow things to take over my mindset anymore. Hello, everyone. How are you doing today? Janna here. I hope you're all having a really, really great day. Or maybe you're not. Maybe you're just living in chaos, in toxicity, in frustration, sadness, anger. Maybe you feel hopeless. Maybe you're sitting there wondering, what the fuck would it feel like to have peace? Will I ever have peace? When? Am I just not meant for it? Am I supposed to live this chaotic, toxic, frustrating life? No matter what I do, I just get fucked over. No matter what I do, it just doesn't work out. If that's you right now, then you, my friends, are listening to the right show because that's exactly what I want to talk about today. I was once that person. It wasn't that long ago. It's only been a few years. When I say a few years, about 5. It's been about 5 years. I'll be 44 in a few weeks. And for 39, almost 40 years, about 39 years, I kind of lived in a little bit of chaos. More so as I got older. More so really began in my late teens. And then just continued on until about 39. The thing was, is I didn't know it for most of that time. How would you not know that, Janna? Some of you listening might not think you're living in chaos. The word chaos sounds like, well, like that's like your life is not good right now. You know, the thing is chaos, my friends. Chaos is when it's just one toxic relationship, one toxic situation, one toxic friendship over and over and over. Chaos doesn't mean, on a scale from 1 to 10, with 10 being the absolute worst, chaos doesn't mean you're an 8 to 10 at all times. Chaos is when you're constantly at about a 4 and up, right? That's what it is. So what does it feel like to have peace? Each and every one of us. We want peace in our lives. We want freedom. We want happiness and love. And we want peace. And in some ways, I don't think you could have one of those without the other. I really don't. If you read my book, Unfuck Your Mind, then you know. But I wanted to talk about this today because I realized that I never thought I would have peace in my life. Now that I have peace in my life, I realize what peace really is. And I'm never going to share anything with you that is not from personal experience, not from just truly knowing the other side of it, both sides, the good, the bad, the ugly, right? I can't tell you what peace is if I've never really had chaos, right? And if I've always kind of had a peaceful life, and I've never had one toxic relationship after another, I can't tell you what chaos is like then, right? So let's talk about that. If I asked each and every one of you, tell me what the definition is, not what you think it is. Tell me what the definition is of peace. Most of you would all have pretty much the same definition, right? You all know what that definition of peace is. But if I said, what does peace mean to you? You would not give the same answer. And here's why. Because each and every one of us in our minds, we have what we feel would be peace in our lives. That feeling of what we think it would be and what it would feel like is based upon our baseline. Your baseline is what you have mostly known your entire life, how you have lived most of your life, right? If you have lived most of your life in toxic, abusive relationships and you've never done the healing inside, because the most important relationship in life, it's with yourself. And until you heal that relationship, none of the other relationships are going to be that great. Maybe they're meant to be great. Maybe it's not that person. Maybe it's the missing link is you, right? I know that when I had a chaotic life, I didn't even realize that it was. And some of you listening right now might think, I don't live in chaos, right? Because for you, that from that scale of 1 to 10, 10 being the worst, you're like, yeah, I'm like at a 5. Well, a 5 is chaos. Chaos is just a continuation of constant living in some sort of cage, whether that's the cage you have given yourself or a cage someone else has put you in. When I say cage, again, I'm referring to something I discussed in my book, which is we all kind of put this little safety net cage around us, but we also allow others to do that to us. In other words, this is what is our comfort zone, right? But that cage is also made up of what is the comfort zone of the person I live with, the person I choose to spend the most time with. And typically that person is very toxic. But because of the toxicity we have inside, we don't realize that because we are trying to fill this emotional void that we have with an external factor. And what that means is that external factor is typically another toxic individual. And we look to them because we're like, oh, they can finally make me feel happy, loved, confident, accepted. And that person typically, a lot of the times, is a narcissist, a bully, someone who at the beginning love bombed us in some way that we felt, they were worthy of our time. But because of our toxicity inside, when they started to show their true colors, we didn't quite realize that because we actually thought the problem was ourselves because that's what they made us believe. So my point is, if that's the kind of relationships you've had, even, whether that's romantic or a friend, business, whatever, then you have lived in some sort of chaos. And peace, when I thought about what peace would feel like when I was living in chaos, right? Which, like I said, was most of my life. Truly, I didn't know it until I did the work, until I did the healing, shattered my limiting beliefs. That's when I was like, wow. It's really hard to look at yourself from the outside looking in when you're inside of it. You might be thinking, well, Janna, I'm always going to be inside of it because it's me. No. What I mean is, when you haven't done the healing, when you haven't done the inner work, when you haven't healed your mindset, you are not able to look at yourself and your situation, your life from the outside looking in because you were in it. But when you do the healing, it allows you to take a step back because you're no longer that person. You've healed. You shattered your limiting beliefs. You did the work. When you do that, then you're able to step out and look at everything at a much bigger picture, and you're able to see it from the outside looking in. So it dawned on me the other day, like what I thought peace would feel like when I was in that chaos and what it really feels like. And I want to share that with you. Most of it is exactly what I thought it would be, which is just like, I would give anything to feel like I could just be myself and, do what I want to do, say what I want to say, and do things the way I want to do it, and not constantly worry about what someone else is going to say, what they think, you know, living that way. But I had done that my entire life. And I wanted to feel so badly what it would be like to live without it. Well, almost 5 years later, and I do. Now, I didn't go from chaos to instant peace. It was quite the transition, because once you get out of a chaotic life, which for me was narcissistic abuse, once you get out of that, there's so much healing that has to be done, so much rewiring of your brain. You have to find yourself, get to know yourself, go through the healing. So in some ways, the peace doesn't come instant. It just doesn't, especially if you are in or have been in a narcissistic abusive relationship. Oh, wow. Especially if you have kids and then you have to go through the divorce proceedings and shared custody. It really took a long time for me to feel peace. And I don't think the peace would have ever come to me if I had not chosen to learn narcissism, to learn how to communicate with a narcissist. Peace most certainly never would have come to me if I wouldn't have taken that most painful time in my life as a teachable moment. It was sent to me to be my teacher, but only via free will if I allowed it. Because I did. And then I also decided to say, I mean, this person's going to be in my life for a long time. I need to learn narcissism, which is really hard because it is the complete opposite of how you think, the way you react, how you think you can appeal to someone. Like, you have to just forget all of that. None of that applies when you're dealing with a narcissist. And so there was a very long process. So though 5 years ago, I got out of a super chaotic situation, it then turned into a different type of chaos because, again, divorcing narcissist, going through more narcissistic abuse than ever, right? It gets worse when you leave them. It gets worse when you're not with them. And it did. So it really took a long time. But what I want to say about peace is that peace is an inner knowing. It's kind of like happiness. It ebbs and flows. Like, I'm truly a happy person, but I don't always feel happy. It would not be normal or natural to just constantly feel happy, right? If you always see someone and they're just like, got a big cheesy smile on their face, you kind of wonder, like, what's really going on? Like, most of the time, the people that are always smiling, typically they got a lot of pain and darkness behind that smile because it's not natural. It's not normal. And so people think that if you're a happy person, then you're not allowed to have a bad day. You're not allowed to be upset, to get frustrated, to be short, to blow up. You are allowed. Happiness is that you always are able to go back to it. If you're not a happy person, you can never go back to it. An unhappy person is just always pissed off. They're always grouchy. They never really are happy. But if you're truly happy, it ebbs and flows because at the end, you really know what matters. Doing so much inner work and healing of my mindset and shattering limiting beliefs and all that, I now know that I always have that in my life because it's not there anymore to haunt me. It's not there anymore to hold me back. I don't live in fear. I don't have those insecurities. I also don't allow things to take over my mindset anymore. If I get mad, if I get upset, if I get sad or frustrated, what I do is I allow myself to feel it. An unhappy person doesn't. They push all of those feelings down. They don't want to feel sad. They don't want to feel unhappy or any of these things necessarily, but because they push away all those negative feelings, they actually are always unhappy. But a happy person is a person who allows themselves to feel every emotion. They acknowledge it. They understand why. Maybe they give themselves 24 to 72 hours. Maybe they give themselves a week, depending on what it is, because that's called the grieving process, right? You have to deal with something in order to heal, right? You have to deal and feel in order to heal. And when you do that, then you go through the process. You unpack that bag of happiness. You unpack that bag of sadness and frustration and anger because you felt it. And then you go back to your happiness. That's how it works, my friends. You can't constantly be happy if you don't deal with the bullshit that comes, because the bullshit's going to come. And so peace is very similar to happiness. Peace is knowing that you always have yourself. Peace is knowing that you don't need or want anyone's approval. Peace is knowing that you create your own happiness, and it's no longer being attached to something. I'll be happy when. I'll be happy when I'm married. I'll be happy when I have kids and have a family. I'll be happy when I get accepted here. I'll be happy when I have these friends. I'll be happy when I make this much money. Okay, you'll be happy when you're constantly kicking that can down the road. And then when that thing does happen, you're temporarily happy. Then it's taken away. Then you're pissed and sad again. That's not happiness. Happiness is only available. Can only happen, true happiness, when you create your own happiness. When you create your own happiness, when you love yourself, accept yourself, approve of yourself, validate yourself, create your own confidence, not one motherfucker can take that away. Not one person can take it away. I don't care the person you love the most in your life, right? Let's say outside of your kids, your partner, your wife, your husband, whatever it is, that person who you're so in love with, it would suck and it'd be sad if that relationship didn't work out or they fucked you over. It would be absolutely heartbreaking if they cannot take your happiness when you create it yourself. You would feel sad. It would suck. But because it takes a certain mindset and a very healed mindset to create your own happiness, that means that mindset is the mindset that understands, I know that this is going to pass and it hurts, but the only way I can get through it is to feel it, give myself that space, and just go with it. And most importantly, never allow it to set in. Setting in means it takes over. You never give yourself a chance to not feel it. You blame yourself. You feel like you could have done something better, could have done something more. But when you have that healed mindset and you create your own happiness, you don't think that way anymore. Happiness cannot be taken from you. Peace cannot be taken from you. The only way those things can ever leave your life is when you do something internally, when you take it from yourself. And I don't know if that's possible when you've done all the work. I just don't. There's a certain leveling up that happens when you go through the process that it takes to shatter limiting beliefs, to go through the healing. I know when I've talked to someone who's done that, because there's just a certain way they talk and they think and things that they know that are impossible without doing the work. And if you know, you know. Peace, my friends, is knowing that nothing that really matters in life can be taken from you. Peace is knowing that you have boundaries, that you understand that not everyone and everything is permanent, that some things are here temporarily for a season, for a reason, and that you accept it. Peace is knowing that sometimes you might feel lonely because you're alone, in the sense of you don't need or want a lot of people in your life. Sometimes maybe you want that, but you realize there's a reason. Peace is knowing that you trust the universe and the universe has your back. Peace is believing in a higher power. Peace is not questioning things so much. Peace only happens when you do the inner work and you know never again can someone take away your love, your acceptance of yourself, your confidence, your happiness, your approval. My friends, that's what peace is. It's like happiness, it ebbs and flows. Only you can give it to yourself. It's not attached to anyone or anything else except you doing the inner work, you doing the healing. Thank you all for tuning in. Have a wonderful day. Drop me a comment, subscribe, rate, you name it, share. I appreciate each and every one of you.